All right, guys, and here we are back again for Fantasy Podcast, going over the remainder of the games for the week. And I'm going to start it off the 125 or the 105 game. The Colts went into Carolina, took on the Panthers, and ended up winning 27-13. Gardner Minshew did not turn the ball over, but had one of his worst fantasy days. The correlation there is kind of funny. He was 17 for 26, 127 yards, a touchdown, 5 rushing attempts for 5 yards, 9.6 points. Jonathan Taylor, we saw get right back to being the Jonathan Taylor that we all know and love. Not very efficient on the ground, but it didn't matter. 18 attempts for 47 yards, 5 catches on 5 targets for 22 and a touchdown, 17.9 points. Jonathan Taylor is only going to keep going up. And last week, I guess, I was listening to a show, someone said he tweaked something in the first half and was doing like calf raises on the sideline. May have had something to do with why he, was very limited in the second half of that game. In this one, he was out there for 45 snaps of the team's 61. Zach Moss was only out there for 13. So it was good to see. It's back to what we kind of thought it would be. And Zach Moss is kind of just a handcuff at this point. I think if you have him and you don't have Taylor, I mean, if you want to hold on to him just in case anything happens, we know the volume that he is capable of getting. But, I mean, at this point, I'd kind of look to the Jonathan Taylor owner, see what they have, see if I could get a deal done. And because he had 7 attempts, 26 yards, 2.6 points, no targets in this one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of obvious the way that this backfield's going to go, especially the Colts keep winning games. The only tight end that was relevant, I guess you could call it, in this one for the Colts was Alec Ogletree. Caught 1 pass on his 3 targets for 19 yards, giving him 2.9 points. No Colts tight ends are viable this year.
No.
Michael Pittman, 8 catches, 8 targets, 64 yards, 14.4 points. Pretty good day.
Yeah.
Don't hate it. We saw Josh Downs questionable before this game with a knee injury. In this game, he happened to leave while aggravating that injury, apparently. It just wasn't good enough to keep playing. So he ended up going out of this game after catching his lone target for 10 yards. And Isaiah McKenzie kind of came in and took over for him, only caught 2 passes on 3 targets for 12 yards and lost a fumble. So that only gave him 1.2 points. And yeah, that was really as far as it goes fantasy-wise for the Colts offense. Not too much. If you're wondering how they scored 27 points, Bryce Young threw 2 touchdowns to the Colts defense. Yeah. It was pretty interesting. What Kenny Moore now has I think, who is it, has 3 touchdown passes. Someone has 2. Kenny Moore has 2. Tommy Tremble has 2. So he's one of the leading touchdown receivers for Bryce Young right now with 2 on the Colts.
Yeah.
So that's how the Colts scored 27 points. Matt Gay obviously kicked a field goal. 2 field goals, giving them 27. But yeah, ugly game. Bryce Young, 24 for 39, 173, a touchdown, 3 picks, 2 touchdowns to the other team. 5 attempts for 41 yards. Saw him run the ball a lot more in this one. 12 points, even though he threw 3 picks. If he would have thrown the ball to his own team more, it would have been a lot better of a day for him. Chuba Hubbard, 16 attempts, 58 yards, 4 catches on 6 targets for only 9 yards, 10.7 points. Whatever. We did see Miles Sanders. He had 10 less rushing attempts, but for only 19 less yards, he was far more efficient than Chuba Hubbard was in this game on the ground and receiving, because he also caught 3 of his 5 targets for 22 yards. He had 9.1 points. I think Miles Sanders is, we talked about how they paid him the money. If he is healthy and he's able to be who, we thought he was, then yeah, he will be I mean, it might still be split, but I think both of them can have some degree of relevance with the amount of that's 11 targets to that backfield.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they're each going to get 5-6 targets a game, they can both be, kind of like the Steelers running backs. They can be decently relevant. They're going to be behind, having to pass a lot, and Bryce Young tends to dump it down often. Thielen, we saw his worst game of the, I don't think week 1 was too great, but
Yeah.
I think week 1 was the worst week. But after that, we saw the absolute dominance of Adam Thielen. This week it was kind of quieted. It, happens. Still got 6 targets, caught 5 of them for only 29 yards, 7.9 points. Surely not the day you were looking for against the Colts defense that has been kind of the opposite of stingy as of recent, but they were on point on Sunday. DJ Chark caught 2 of his 3 passes for 9 yards and a touchdown, giving him 8.9 points. Mingo was only 1 for 4 for 5 yards. The guy that I was hoping would kind of continue on his recent success this week, he did not. Tommy Tremble, 2 of 2, 12 yards, and Hayden Hurst caught 2 of his 4 passes for 54 yards. Am I interested in Hayden Hurst? No, I am not. And, I mean, I wish I could say I want, but it's hard to say. Adam Thielen is still very clearly the number one. Mingo got 4 targets, but so did Hayden Hurst. And like I said, when your running backs are getting 11 targets total, it's going to be a bit difficult for anyone else to kind of get home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was not the most exciting game. Obviously, when 2 of the touchdowns are defensive and the score is 27-13, you can imagine not much happened offensively anyways. Yeah. So that's about it. High score in this game, Jonathan Taylor. We're moving right on.
Yeah, it's tough because with that Panthers offense, there's just not too much to be excited about outside of Thielen. Like, Chuba and Miles aren't terrible, but fantasy-wise, Thielen's like the only real option there.
Well, I mean, Chuba and Miles are viable just due to the fact that they're dumping the ball off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Miles Sanders is going to be worked back in, which I'd assume
he will.
So it's, yeah, I mean, those are 2 guys, flex-worthy options. They're past their bye.
Yeah.
About it.
Well, my only Sunday afternoon game was the Giants going to the desert, as they like to say on TV, to play the Raiders in Las Vegas.
I mean, it is.
I know. I just think it's funny every time because I'm so used to Oakland, and they're always like, the Giants are going to the desert. And I'm just like, oh. But it is, yeah. The Raiders won 30-6. I'm not going to cover Daniel Jones' stats because it was very sad to see Daniel Jones tear his ACL. Tyrod Taylor is on the IR. It was sad to see. Well, he'd heard it the play before, and then they leave him in.
He tried to run the next play, and then he just went down, and he tried to get back up, and he just couldn't.
No. No. So now with Daniel Jones gone for the year, Tyrod Taylor on the IR, you have Tommy DeVito and Matt Barkley, who is still in the league.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't sign Carson Wentz, but maybe it's just because they're at the point where they have 2 wins.
They could tank.
They could very well end up with Caleb Williams, Penix.
A side note, Deion Sanders did come out and say today, like an hour ago, that Shedeur would not be entering the draft. That is not word from Shedeur himself, but Deion says he will not be entering the draft. So, if the Giants were thinking about him and he does not enter, that's one less quarterback. But yeah, so we're looking Tommy DeVito or Matt Barkley for the foreseeable future for the Giants. Just when you thought it could not get worse. Tommy DeVito did not play horrible in this game, but he did not play good by any means. He was 15 of 20, so decently efficient, 175 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 4 carries, 17 yards, 10.7 fantasy points. With Daniel Jones going out, with Tyrod on the IR, I'm at the point where the only guy I'm willing to start, honestly, maybe even roster on the Giants, is Saquon Barkley. I just don't know what I'm going to get on a consistent basis from Tommy DeVito or Matt Barkley when I'm looking at like Wan'Dale, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Daniel Bellinger.
And we had the discussion about Darren Waller when we were previewing this game, and we were kind of, how it's kind of in limbo with him on IR. I think with Daniel Jones tearing his ACL,
he might be shut down for the year.
He might be shut down for I think it's. We talked about how it was a large possibility, especially if they lost this game. Well, not only did they lose, they lost their quarterback as well. I think it's safe to drop Darren Waller.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's safe to drop everyone except Saquon Barkley, to be honest, on this offense. I don't see
Waller coming back.
Yeah. But Saquon had a solid day. 16 carries, 90 yards, 3 catches for 23 yards on 4 targets, 14.3. The Raiders' rush defense has been horrendous, but in a game where they weren't too scared of the passing threat of the Giants, they were able to, I don't want to say limit Saquon because he still had a solid day, but had Saquon got 20-plus fantasy points, I would not have been surprised. So 14.3 is a pedestrian week against a Raiders rush defense. Wan'Dale Robinson had 5 targets, caught 4 of them, 35 yards.
It makes it a hell of a lot easier when you are playing the third-string quarterback. We're loading the box.
Yeah, so I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson caught a touchdown that he was wide open in the end zone for. Kudos to him. 13.5 fantasy points. He had a solid day. Darius Slayton was the other guy that had a solid day for them. 4 catches, 59 yards on 7 targets, 9.9 fantasy points. And Daniel Bellinger caught 3 passes on his 3 targets for 43 yards, 7.3 fantasy points. Again, this was just whatever hope we had in the Giants offense is gone. Outside of Saquon, I legitimately would not roster a single player on the Giants. There's just better options.
Cowboys have added Martavis Bryant. Okay.
All right. He is back from the XFL. That's a former Raider.
Where he did not do anything. He was not even the lead receiver on his team. So, but yeah.
So, that's
we know
news,
that
though.
because we were going for the team that he was, and he was not
good.
Relevant.
Yeah. So, to go to the Raiders side of the ball, Aiden O'Connell, we are seeing a new era mid-season for the Raiders yet again. Will it turn the page? We don't know. Fantasy-wise, it at least... We'll get into it. So Aiden O'Connell, 16 of 25, 209 yards, didn't throw a touchdown, didn't throw a pick, 8.36 fantasy points. Obviously, he's not a guy we're looking to start, but we are looking at the 3-headed monster, his weapons in Las Vegas. Davante Adams, 4 catches, 34 yards, 7.4 fantasy points on 7 targets. This is another week. And I know Schiff had mentioned it. Have we seen the last of Davante Adams being a fantasy wide receiver 1? I would say, yeah. It is beyond possible. I mean, since week 5, 8.5, 4.9, 12.7, 2.1, 7.4. We just saw Noah Brown basically do all of those weeks combined in 1 week. Davante's clearly talented, and we know he was disgruntled, but he didn't get heavily targeted this game. He didn't have to because the Raiders' defense, and it just wasn't in the game plan. So, trade deadline's passed. He's going to be a Raider the rest of the season, at least. It's tough because now you're looking at where you drafted Davante. You possibly still could trade him to someone that is really high on him because of his talent, his accolades. So I guess if you can move him, depending on what you could get him for, but it's another one of those where you might be stuck with Devontae and you're the one hoping that he'll just end up balling out again. Schiff just looks depressed because he's stuck with Devontae. But the other receiver, Jacoby Myers, it's not like he had a crazy offensive day either. I mean, 2 catches, 38 yards, only 5 targets, but he had a rush for 17 yards and a touchdown, which saved him 13.5 fantasy points. A solid week for him. Josh Jacobs was the guy who got the absolute just workload in this game. 28 carries for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. 21.8 fantasy points. Did not see a target out of the backfield, but when you're getting 26 carries, he had a very solid day.
Would you rather have rest of season Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams?
That's really hard. I would lean towards Garrett Wilson right now, but I do think with Aiden O'Connell continuously getting first team reps and being the starter, that we could see Devontae's numbers start to spike back up. But as of now, Garrett Wilson.
Adams.
Probably Michael Pittman. I like Michael Pittman more than Garrett Wilson. He's just, I don't know. I like Gardner Minshew more than Zach Wilson. That's why that really breaks down to. Michael Pittman's been super consistent. They score more consistently than the Raiders have or the Jets. I mean, Adam Thielen over a lot of guys, though. He had this one bad week, but outside of that, Adam Thielen's like 15 plus every single week. But yeah. Trey Tucker. 1 carry for 4 yards. 2 catches for 52 yards. Trey Tucker caught an absolute bomb from Aiden O'Connell, and it was a great catch. I don't want to elaborate more because I don't think he's viable fantasy-wise, but as a Raider fan, it was good to see. Who?
That guy, Trey Tucker.
We just drafted him. Why is he going to disappear?
Because I need him to.
Yeah. He had 7.6 fantasy points.
Every week.
And do you see what number Trey Tucker wears?
What?
1-1. That's all I have to say about it. We don't have to go into that. But just seeing someone wearing the number 11 catching deep balls is just Hunter Renfrow had
crash and burn.
Yeah. Hunter Renfrow had a little involvement in this game. Like, what do you want me to say to that, dude? What do you want me to say? Hunter Renfrow, 2 catches for 32 yards, 5.2 fantasy points. Michael Mayer had 3.1. Daniel Carlson, we're going to have to see. Maybe his fantasy relevance is coming back. It seems like the Raiders' offense is rejuvenated. Players are happy and excited to be out there, which has not been the case as of recent. Daniel Carlson, 14 points. The Raiders' defense, who I said I was starting over the Bills, Raiders' defense got us 20. I mean, come on. I'm just excited to live in a world where the Raiders' fantasy defense can get us double digits, let alone 20. So, I mean,
yeah.
It was a good note to see, but that's all I had. You know, the same guys. It's Devontae, it's Josh Jacobs, and it's Jacoby Myers. Those are the 3 guys you just have to start. I guess.
Yeah.
Jacoby,
next week's gonna be ugly
against the Jets.
Next week is gonna be ugly.
Mm-hmm.
If the Raiders defense does not perform like they did this week.
Are we ready to
Jets
say
defense is tough?
We don't have to go crazy into this, but I know you saw the picture. Max Crosby. He's top 3, and he's not 3. Top 3 defensive end in the entire league, and he's not 3.
Probably.
That's all I had.
I'm gonna say defensive end, yeah, like overall
No.
No. So I was gonna say, there's people doing some things this year. Like, I don't know if you've seen Justin Madubuike on the Ravens, interior D lineman with 7.5 sacks, is absolutely
insane.
Like, he's putting up better numbers than Aaron Donald and Chris Jones, which is just wow. But enough of us, celebrating our own teams. Yeah, let's get back. And the next game was the Cowboys going into Philadelphia.
Really good game.
And doing everything but beating the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
When I say this, it's because if you watch that game, they lost this game probably by a matter of 5.5 yards. Because
didn't he get tackled at like the 2?
CD? Nah, I was at the 4. On the last play, it was at the 4. I checked on Bleacher Report, the live update.
Yeah, they were close.
But even before that, Schoonmaker on 4th down catches the ball, initially ruled a touchdown.
Yeah.
This far from breaking the plane. Dak Prescott on the 2-point conversion on the ensuing drive steps out with about this far to go before the ball breaks the plane. And then, like I said, CeeDee Lamb gets on the final play of the game tackled on like the 4-yard line. The Cowboys had so many. I was happy to not be a Cowboys fan this week because I've seen the Ravens lose in that fashion many times. And it ruins your whole week watching your team lose like that with that many opportunities to win. So shouts out to all the Cowboys fans. Even though I don't like the Cowboys, I know that one hurt.
Yeah.
Like I said in the beginning of the week, and I'm honestly going to roll with this until he burns me. Dak Prescott as my QB start of the week.
He's going.
He continues to ball. He continues to ball out. I mean, this is great to see.
Yeah.
29 for 44, 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6 rushing attempts for 14 yards, 28.4 points. I mean, have a day, Dak. Now, the concern is one that has been weeks now, Tony Pollard. 12 attempts, 51 yards, 3 catches on 5 targets for 12 yards, giving you 9.3 points. This is another week that we have seen Tony Pollard under double digits. I mean, you could say it's because they were in a position where they had to pass the ball a lot. But, they've been in a couple games, like, pretty sure their most previous game against the Chargers, they were in situations where they could run the ball. And Tony Pollard still didn't have the greatest day. It's not the Tony Pollard of last year that we are seeing. And
he's only broken 73 times the first 3 games. Has not broke it since.
Yeah, he has not been very efficient on the ground. You're still starting him, but yeah, it's cause for concern. But we did say this Eagles defense against running backs, it has been stifling. So I'm not looking at this and hitting the panic button, given the fact he got 9.3 points. We can live with that. But this, like I said, this is not the first week by any means that he's been under double digits. That's the concern.
Yeah.
Rico Dowdle isn't eating into his workload. Rico Dowdle only got 2 rushing attempts for 8 yards. No targets. So hopefully we see Tony pick it up soon.
Yeah.
I honestly think this could be because of the emergence of none other than Jake Ferguson. Another great game.
Yeah.
7 catches on 10 targets, 91 yards and a touchdown, 22.1 fantasy points. Then CeeDee Lamb, another absolutely dominant day. 11 catches on 16 targets for 191 28.1 points. Yeah, world beater CeeDee Lamb has touched back down to earth. The thing in this game that disappointed me from the Cowboys side of the ball was I was hoping Brandon Cooks would continue to keep up his volume and keep up his involvement in this offense. Well, in this one, they decided that Jalen Tolbert was going to be the guy getting that. He got 3 catches on 5 targets for 59 yards and a touchdown, 13.9 points. Kind of what I was hoping for Brandon Cooks. unfortunately went to someone else. Does this concern me with Brandon Cooks? Absolutely. Because, I mean, it's very obvious at this point the top two targets in this offense are CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. Even Tony Pollard got 5 targets. And between the rest of, I mean, Tolbert got 5, Gallup got 3, only caught 2 for 19, 3.9 points. Cooks, 2 targets, caught one of them for 7 yards, 1.7 points. And Kevontae Turpin even caught one
for a touchdown.
5 yards and a touchdown. So they're just willing to spread the ball out a little bit more than I'm comfortable with having like Gallup or Cooks.
Yeah.
At this point, I think it's a problem I'll let someone else deal with. Just put him back on the waiver wire and let someone else roster him and make that decision every week. Because without the volume, he's no better than Gabe Davis that hasn't been proven on this offense for more than a couple weeks.
And now they have Martavius there.
Yep. Yes.
Just to muddle it more, they obviously weren't completely sold on the wide receiver room,
You're not wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's more of a disappointed reaction out of me because I was hoping that Brandon Cooks could be something. I mean, this has been an offense that's been good. They've been throwing the ball a lot and just not to anybody else but CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, when 26 targets go to 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's it with the Cowboys. He had Aubrey get another 7 points. Kind of cool. And then the Eagles, Jalen Hurts did Jalen Hurts things. 17 for 23, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10 attempts, 36 yards, a touchdown, 25.9 points. Continues to be an every week quarterback 1. Nothing to worry about with that guy. DeAndre Swift, 18 attempts, 43 yards, 2 catches for 31 on 2 targets, 9.4 points. Nothing great, not awful. Somehow outscored Tony Pollard. And Kenneth Gainwell even scored the same amount of points as Tony Pollard. 3 attempts, 22 yards, touchdown. His touchdown was great. Kenneth Gainwell had a great touchdown. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Swift managers obviously wish that went to him, but you can't take that away from Gainwell. That was pure greatness on his part. And he had 1 catch for 1 yard, 9.3 points. AJ Brown did not continue his streak of over 125 yards receiving. Nonetheless, 7 catches on 9 targets for 66 yards and a touchdown. 19.6 points for AJ Brown against a pretty tough Cowboys defense. So if you even considered ever benching him, you're not going to do it. Except for this next week because they're on bye. Devontae Smith, 3 catches on 3 targets for 51 yards and a touchdown, 14.1 points. And Dallas Goedert, unfortunately, had a fracture in his forearm in this game, went out a little early, but caught 3 of 4 passes for 50 yards, 8 points. Last year, we saw when Dallas Goedert went out, Devontae Smith's relevance went through the roof. I think we are due to see that again. So Devontae Smith managers rejoice. Better days are coming. And yeah, that's it for that one.
Would you trade AJ Brown for Jamar Chase?
No.
Neither would I. I asked because I'm sure people along those lines have gotten offers like that. I received an offer like that where they offered like George Pickens and other pieces for AJ Brown. And I came back and said, to even consider AJ Brown, I would need Jamar Chase and then some. And they were kind of like,
I guess.
AJ Brown's been he's the wide receiver too. Now Godert's got I get it. Jamar Chase is crazy talented, but so is AJ Brown.
Even given the fact, because the only thing I was gonna say was bring up the fact that they're on bye this week, and if you're in a position where you really need to win and you can't afford starting, some jag in his place, then maybe it'd be considerable. But even then, it's like looking at my team, I'm 6-3 right now. Mm-hmm. If I lose this week, 6-4, I'm not trading AJ Brown to win 1 week.
No,
absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not.
Yeah, just wanted to throw it out there, in case people were getting. There's very few people I would trade A.J. Brown for at this point. Like, very few. That's just how it is.
Like Christian McCaffrey.
And it's crazy. I don't even know if I would trade him for Tyreek Hill. I'm dead serious. I don't know. I just don't. A.J. Brown has been so good this year. So.
Yeah. Yeah, nah.
But, yeah, if you want to move to the Sunday night, I believe you're actually going first.
Yeah, we had the Bills going into Cincinnati taking on the Bengals. Just being honest, the Bills looked like trash. Mm-hmm. They did. The Bengals dominated most of this game. At the beginning, it was 7-7. And then the Bills kind of just... watching them is slightly annoying because it's... If you watched like the 2019 Ravens, it was everything... It was hoping Lamar Jackson would make a play, and if he didn't, it ended bad. And the annoying part about that with the Bills is they have so much talent around Josh Allen.
Yeah.
They have James Cook, who is a very good running back. They only let him run the ball 6 times. And by no means was from the beginning to the end of this game pure dominant by the Bengals. It was, like I said, 7-7 at one point. But they don't decide to establish the run. Between their running backs, there were only 8 attempts because they like to mess around and on first and second down, try to throw deep.
Yeah.
And when that doesn't work out, a lot of times you're faced with third and long and you can't run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So at no point do they try to establish the run. They're just constantly chucking the ball all game. It's honestly stupid football, just purely relying on the talent of Josh Allen and nothing else. And when he can't get it done, the Bills lose. And that's what's happened this year. That's why the Bills' record is what it is, because their defense hasn't been as dominant. It's stupid, but now we can get into the actual stats. Josh Allen was 26 for 38, 258 yards, a touchdown, an interception. Has thrown an interception in like the last 5 games. 8 attempts, 44 yards, a touchdown, 23.7 points. He's always going to be good for fantasy. The thing that just the running back room, James Cook, I want to have faith in the talent of James Cook because it's there and it's obvious and he shows it every week.
Yeah.
But the play calling does not favor him on more weeks than it does.
Mm-hmm.
6 attempts. He only touched the ball 10 times. 6 attempts for 20 yards, 4 catches on 4 targets for 19, 7.9 points.
Yeah.
It's just irritating. Latavius Murray, 2 attempts for 4 yards, 1 catch on 1 target for 6 yards, 2 whole points. They insist on using him for his pass blocking ability, and this running back room is only going to get worse with the recent signing of Leonard Fournette. I don't think they did that just to have him on the practice squad. We know they clearly love using washed up running backs. Latavius Murray is the oldest player in the NFL currently.
Running back.
Can be the oldest player for all I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid, the star of the show, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
10 catches on 11 targets, 81. Tough, but 16.1 points. We talked about how he is going to be one of the better tight ends now that Dawson Knox is gone. Drafted him high. I don't even know if Dawson Knox is going to come back to the same role that he was in.
I don't think so.
Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 7 targets, 1 touchdown, 86 yards, 20.6 points. Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
Khalil Shakir, hey, just 2 weeks
solid.
in a row.
Yeah.
Like we said, it is a offense that absolutely loves to pass the ball. And they're not running 2 tight end because Dawson Knox is out. So the slot receiver, kind of the Cole Beasley type guy, Khalil Shakir. 4 catches on 4 targets, 57 yards, 9.5 points, or 9.7 points. I apologize. Derek, I'll let you talk about the last guy, since I know you are probably not happy with him.
I mean, Gabe Davis, it just doesn't make sense. It's like he started the season crazy hot. Then he plays the Giants, gives you 3.1. Plays the Patriots, gives you 1.6. So I bench him. They play Tampa. He has the most targets and most receptions he's had in his career. Gives you 23.7 on my bench. Not going to make that mistake again. I'll throw him back in the lineup. 2 targets, plays 93% of snaps. He's Tyler Higbee at the wide receiver position. He's just getting cardio. He did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It's truly mind-boggling.
I don't know
how much it varies from week to week. I genuinely don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't. How a guy can be so relevant in a win for an offense in 1 week, and the next week he gets 2 targets.
Yeah. And he's out there in basically the entire game. He's on the field.
It makes no sense to me. But yeah, you could take it into the Bengals because I figured you'd have a word to say about him.
I mean, I played fantasy this week. I had Michael Thomas give me 0, Gabe Davis give me 0, and Travis Kelce give me 4.4, and I lose by like 10. Like,
yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Bengals, and I have a couple Bengals on my fantasy team, they are starting to get it going. Their offense especially. Joe Burrow, 31 of 44, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 5 carries for 4 yards. We love stat lines like that. 22.32 fantasy points. A solid week. It seems like Joe Burrow is getting back to what we expect from him. He has looked very good the past couple weeks. Joe Mixon is benefiting from it. He's still not running the ball very efficiently. 14 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. But because he's the only back in that backfield that really gets anything, he also got 6 targets out the backfield, caught 5 of them, 31 yards, 17.8 fantasy points. And Schiff had mentioned it before. When the Bengals offense and Joe Burrow gets it together, Joe Mixon will come along for that ride. And now they're being able to pass the ball more efficiently, and we're seeing Joe Mixon just had his best fantasy week of the season. And if this continues, we're going to see more consistent, solid weeks out of Joe Mixon. Jamar Chase, 4 catches, 41 yards, 8 targets, 8.1 fantasy points. He tweaked his back. He is considered day-to-day per Zach Taylor. Jamar Chase said after the game that he was a little banged up. Some people took it as he could miss time. It looks like he may not miss any time, but it is something to heavily monitor going through the week because there have been a couple different views on the severity of the injury, but Zach Taylor saying day-to-day is a very good sign. T. Higgins is looking like he's getting back into form. He had 9 targets, caught 8 of them for 110 yards, 19 fantasy points. Tyler Boyd, 5 targets, 3 catches, 56, 8.6. He was one that we'd mentioned, if you have to plug in a Tyler Boyd, we don't absolutely hate it, and 8.6 does not kill you. For someone that you did, bottom of the barrel, you're like, I gotta throw someone in, 8.6 does not kill you. Do you know how good all of the tight ends did?
No, yeah, we talked about it. How he was the tight end 17 with 11 points.
No, I mean all the tight ends on the Bengals specifically.
Oh, on the no.
Drew,
I know. Didn't Drew Sample get a touchdown or something stupid?
Listen to how crazy this is. Drew Sample gets 4 targets, catches 3 of them, 30 yards, a touchdown, 12 fantasy points, played 37% of snaps. Irv Smith, 4 targets, caught 3 of them, 26 yards, a touchdown, played 36% of snaps. Tanner Hudson, 5 targets, caught 4 of them, 45 yards, played 23% of snaps. What? I don't trust any of them, first off. I don't trust any of them. But just all 3 of the Bengals tight ends kind of went crazy. It's like that one week when the Patriots with Gesicki, Brown, and Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was just a good day. I mean, if you're a T. Higgins owner, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow, if you had to start Tyler Boyd, you weren't mad. Jamar Chase, a bit of an underwhelming day, only 8.1. And then again, I'm not looking at any of the tight ends. They all had solid days, but all three of them played like 30% of snaps. That's just crazy. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it's like, y'all could keep that.
Yeah, but that's all I had if you want to take it to the final game, the Monday night.
Yeah, one final thing I wanted to note on. The Bills' defense is not good. If it's not like last year where if you see the Bills' defense going against one of your players, like, oh no, doesn't matter. Honestly, no. It does not worry me this year.
No.
We saw Zeke get in the end zone against the Bills. This is not a team that scares me right now. They have not been performing. They've lost key guys. So, yeah, play your guys against the Bills. Do not worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not the same Bills defense. But yes, into our final game, the Chargers went into New York, beat the Jets 27-6. Awful, awful football game. The score does not at all indicate how the game went, in my opinion. There were a ton of punts. It was totally just failure to move the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It was so okay. One of the Chargers' touchdowns came from a punt return, and then they kicked 2 field goals, and 2 of them came off of pretty much field position due to turnovers.
Yeah.
That was how this football game went, and you'll understand that as I read the stat line. Justin Herbert was 16 for 30, 136 yards, 3 rushing attempts, and 17 yards for a whopping 7.1 fantasy points. I hope you didn't need him to score a bunch to win your game, because if you did, you didn't. Austin Eckler was the highest scorer in this one, benefited from 2 goal line touchdowns, wildly inefficient yet again, 14 for 47. Only 2 catches on 7 targets for 23 yards, but still finished with 21 points.
Yeah.
Josh Kelly, his backup, 3 attempts, 18 yards, 1 catch, 4 yards, 3.2 points. Gerald Everett got 2 targets, caught them both. One of them was a great for the catch and run was amazing. Doesn't get another target for the rest of the game. That was interesting. Donald Parham, 2 targets, didn't catch one of them.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen, the only other relevant player on the Chargers in this game, unless you were a madman. No, even then, it was only punt return touchdown, so it was like 6 points. So yeah, Keenan Allen, 8.9 points, or 8 catches on 9 targets. I don't know how I read that so wrong. For 77 yards and 15.7 points. Quentin Johnston, snooze fest. Not entirely his fault. He was covered by Sauce Gardner practically the entire game. Only got 3 targets and caught 2 of them for 14 yards. So 3.4 points. Third highest score on the Chargers was okay. Well, their defense obviously
was insane.
Their defense I'm not even going to talk about because the Jets only scored 6 points and the Chargers were just massacring Zach Wilson. It didn't look fun to be the Jets quarterback last night.
Yeah.
But not Brandon Aubrey, Dicker the kicker, 11 points. Good job.
Yeah.
Third highest scorer on the offense.
And obviously was not any better on the Jets side of the ball. Zach Wilson threw the ball 49 times. Completed 33 of them, 263 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 carries, 7 yards, 7.2 fantasy points. The Zach Wilson experience.
Yeah.
Breece Hall, 16 carries, 50 yards, 4 catches for 10 yards on 4 targets, 10 fantasy points. They actually kept Breece Hall in check. I will give the Chargers credit for that. They did keep him in check. He played 60% of the snaps. Michael Carter was the RB2 this week. Did not have a rush, but had 6 catches on 6 targets, 24 yards, 8.4 fantasy points.
A majority of them came on that ridiculous last drive for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and
he is the 2-minute back, though. He is the 2-minute back.
Yeah, and Dalvin Cook is
cooked.
Yeah. The receiver room. Only guy really worth talking about is Garrett Wilson. Again, had a solid game. 13 targets, got 7 of them, 80 yards, lost a fumble, so he had 13 fantasy points even. That's not terrible. By no means does that lose you a week. Xavier Gibson had 5.2, Lazard 3.8, and my guy, Tyler Conklin, came through, though. 6 targets, 6 catches, 66 yards, 62% of snaps, 12.6 fantasy points. Mic drop. Tyler Conklin.
Okay. You're a little too excited for that, but
that's it.
Yeah. But no, I did bring up when we were talking about the Raiders and Giants game, how if the Raiders defense isn't able, because the Chargers defense essentially set them up with the field position to get those touchdowns, had the punt return for a touchdown. If the Raiders defense isn't able to basically do the same, this Jets defense is very, very, very tough.
Do you like starting the Raiders defense against the Jets next week?
Maybe. I actually no, because we saw Breece Hall absolutely tear the Broncos defense to shreds, and that is the Raiders' one weakness.
Yeah.
And I think Zach Wilson is slightly more capable than Tommy DeVito.
He's a little better than Danny DeVito. That's true. I think
he's slightly more capable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's it. So just something to watch for. Like I honestly know I'm going to get burned by Devontae Adams next week.
Yeah.
No. Yes.
Okay.
It's happening.
Take us to the waiver.
I wish he could be something. All right. Into the waiver wire, I got my quarterback, Taylor Heineke. A little bit gross, especially. He didn't do too much this past week he had like 15 points. Oh. And Drake London is questionable. From out to questionable. Okay, so that kind of makes it a little better for me.
Yeah.
Because with Drake London back, that is their number 1 wide receiver returning, and they happen to be playing the Arizona Cardinals this weekend. So we know Taylor Heineke likes to chuck the ball. If Drake London is back, that serves him a lot better. So yeah, as far as, the obvious choice in any league, if he is out there, is CJ Stroud. I chose not to say him because on Sleeper, he is rostered in 78% of leagues.
Yeah.
So if you're in one of those 22% of leagues, go get him.
Yeah. My start, and he's been on this list before, the rocket scientist, Josh Dobbs, man. I rock with Josh Dobbs heavy, okay? He plays the Saints. Tyson Bagent just put up 18.8. And this is crazy to say, but Josh Dobbs currently is QB 10 on the season, despite having less than a single point week 1. And he is QB 10 currently. He has this rushing upside that a lot of quarterbacks don't have, where it's like, if he gets you, say, 35 rush yards and a touchdown, that's already like 10 points. That's 9.5 points right there. Like, just already right there. And he has that upside. He's proven that he can rush the ball. I like Josh Dobbs this week. And honestly, I like him the next couple weeks going forward. It's the Saints, then it's the Broncos, then it's the Bears.
Yeah, and Yeah, it's not bad.
He's a riskier pick, but he's only 20% rostered. So I'm like, when we're really looking at guys, like, you know what I mean? Like, depending how deep your league is.
These next 3 weeks are all weeks that teams do have buys. So, like this week, we have Chiefs and the Dolphins. So you're not gonna have Patty or Tua. So
the Eagles, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. So I don't hate it at all.
Yeah.
Into the running backs. I am going to go with kind of a homer pick on this one, but the talent is obvious. He had 138 rushing yards on 9 attempts and a touchdown. So that mine will be Keaton Mitchell, only rostered in 3% of leagues.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick him up and drop Justice Hill because he's clearly the most talented back in the Baltimore running back room.
Yeah.
And he is able to do a lot with a little bit of work. Those were his first 9 rushing attempts of the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, okay, and these are hard to do, the running back especially, because in almost every league, the running back is going to be the most thin position on the waiver wire. So, like, when we're looking at the waiver wire, the top guys, you have, like, Latavius Murray, Jaleel McLaughlin, Josh Kelly, Jamal Williams, Samaj AP, just to give you an idea of what we're working with here. You know, like, in a normal league, that's what you're looking like on the waiver. That's right, my guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Antonio Gibson. He's 48% rostered, and it's strictly because he's on the field at least like 40% of times, and his past 5 weeks, 10, 8, 5, 9, 12, like, he hasn't been terrible. So, I mean, and again, there's no running back on this waiver wire this week that we're just like, oh, this guy's going to just, he's going to start for his team. He's going to get 12 plus carries a game. Like, it's very thin picking. So it's, if you're wanting to make a move, you're still holding on to like a Dalvin or someone like that. You have a guy that just got injured, and you have an open spot, you want a running back. I agree. I like Keaton Mitchell, and Antonio Gibson at least seems like he won't kill you.
I mean, they are going in, not into Cleveland, but they're playing the Browns in Baltimore this weekend. And that's going to be a tough matchup. I'm not saying that he is a start for this week, but of all the guys on the waiver wire that I've seen in multiple leagues, he by far has the most upside.
Yeah.
We saw what he was able to do with 9 carries against a good run defense. So, into the wide receivers, though, mine is Michael Wilson on the Arizona Cardinals. We saw him miss this past game that Clayton Tune played, and I'm kind of thankful for it because not too many people are going to be on the radar for him right now. And that's good because Kyler Murray's coming back this week. And the formula is just there for his success.
Yeah.
Rookie wide receiver coming into the second half of the year. His quarterback is coming back. James Conner's coming back. This whole offense is going to end up being a lot more valuable in the second half of this year. They know they're not going to get the number 1 pick, especially with Kyler Murray coming back. I don't know what they're going to try to do, but I think they've been playing, aside from last week, decent football every week, decent enough to hang in games. So they're clearly not trying to just lose. They beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, I really like Michael Wilson. Another guy that I believe has a lot of upside for the rest of the year, only rostered in 20% of leagues.
Yeah, and I'll stick to a trend of a guy low rostered. This one just feels ugly to say, but it's Juju. He's 27% rostered, so he's probably available. If, and this is a big if he can come back and get to a healthy state. This past game, we covered it. 6 catches, 51 yards, 7 targets, and 36% of snaps. We're in a world where the Patriots wide receiver 1 right now is Demario Douglas. Like, they paid Juju all this money to be the wide receiver 1. Kendrick Bourne's not even there anymore. Devonta Parker just does not look good. They have Jalen Reagor was getting run. Like, it's wide open. That door is wide open for him to at least be the number 2 with Demario Douglas. I mean,
I'm surprised that you went there instead of Khalil Shakir. I thought you were for sure going Shakir.
I didn't go Shakir because he's had a couple solid games, but I can't even trust Gabe Davis. So I'm going to trust Khalil Shakir?
Well, just the thing, since he's been consistent.
The past couple
Since
weeks,
Dawson,
yeah. Yeah, since Dawson. You're right.
and since they've had to change from that 2 tight end to going to that slot.
Yeah.
He's 7.5, 15, 9.7.
He's worth mentioning. He's that's another very viable option is Khalil
going
Shakir.
up against Denver this week.
Yeah.
So he's a guy that if you want to pick him up and start him, considering some of the guys that are going to be out this week, I don't hate that at all. Like Michael Wilson against Atlanta, maybe you could throw him in. I think that would be a decent start. But Khalil Shakir against Denver,
yeah,
that could be a good spot start.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, on to the tight ends. The guy we've mentioned week in, week out. I would say Cole Kmet. He's rostered in 75% of leagues. I'd say Dalton Schultz, rostered in 71. A guy who is surprisingly, despite currently resting at tight end 11, only rostered in 31% of leagues. He had 2 back-to-back pretty poor outings, but Jonnu Smith, for some reason, he is consistently on the field for over 50% of the snaps. They refuse to let him play less than that. And in the first game with Taylor Heineke starting, he gets 5 catches on 6 targets for 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think it's gross. I don't like it. But if he's going to have that much involvement in the offense, yeah, he's my waiver wire pickup of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, my tight end is going to be Cade Otton. He's only 10% rostered. His past 3 weeks, he's seen 6 targets, and then 9 this past week. And he also scored 9 points, then 8 points, then 23. I mean, he doesn't have competition in that tight end room. He's out there the entire game.
Literally 100%.
Yeah.
Literally 100% last game.
And Baker is seeming to throw to him a little bit more as of recent. He's a young tight end that you assume is only getting better. So I like at least giving him the look.
Yeah. And just end this off really quick. A couple defenses and kickers that might be good this week. Some that are just on in our league that we are in the waiver wire if they are available. As I said, the Jets defense is very tough. They go up against the Raiders this week. Although they gave up 27 points against the Chargers, they still scored 7 points. And I'm not saying that I think the Raiders offense is bad, but I do think the Jets defense offers a lot more, it's a lot more difficult than the Giants defense will be. So that could be very tough. And then another one is the Green Bay Packers defense against the Steelers. Yes, the Packers played against essentially a quarterback who should not be playing in the NFL last week.
You know what's funny? Did you see the roster moves the Rams made when they signed Carson Wentz? Brett Rypien is no longer playing in the NFL.
Well, there we have it. Yeah. So they played a quarterback who is no longer playing in the NFL. And this week they will be playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers offense has been so lackluster that I don't mind playing any defenses against them, really. They don't do too much. They're not going to score a bunch of points. And Green Bay's defense the last few weeks, I mean, they got 8 against Minnesota. Denver went off against them somehow, but they got 9 against the Raiders. Just if you need a defense, because they are only rostered in 18% of leagues.
Yeah.
So they are going to be widely available. The Jets are rostered in 72%. So that's why just a defense that might be available. And then a kicker that should be widely available in a good matchup is Jason Myers, only rostered in 39% of leagues, going up against the Washington Commanders. That will be it for my waiver wire. Derek, if you got any defenses, kickers, anything you want to add in? No.
Nope.
So that will be all for this one, guys. We will be back tomorrow with the Thursday night preview. And we got a lot more for the rest of the week. So stay tuned. Any questions, comments you guys may have? As we said, if you want to get involved in our picks on Sleeper, hit us up on any of our social media platforms. We'll send you the link with that code, as well as the invite to be in the group where you can, chat if you want, copy picks, post your own picks. And yeah, that'll be it. Derek, if you want to take it away.
Yes, sir. Come back next episode tomorrow. Take more reps with the first team.